the shadow, which isn't the amalgamation of the entire subconscious. It is just the aspects of ourselves that we suppress. There are natural parts of ourselves that are subconscious and natural parts of ourselves that are conscious. The amount in which, like, our psyche is dependent on either or is still up to debate in a lot of ways. Like, what is the human identity? But in circumstances of what shadow work does is the one in which you are now recollecting the parts of yourself that you rejected, reestablishing and integrating the parts of yourself that you were told that aren't okay, that you shouldn't have, the things that you shouldn't be. This is actually where I do believe that the shadow's origination comes from in psychological terms, and also as well as spiritual ones. The ones in which we find ourselves in our childhood where we were told there was something wrong with us, or we felt that there was something wrong with us. This sort of experience, the act of feeling like you're doing something wrong, as like a core sense of your being, a core sense of your survival, can be traced back to the points in which you were crying out as a baby and just was not able to have your needs met. The circumstances in which you change your behaviors as a baby because your actions as a baby are very much just based on primal desires, and so it's traced back to the most primal parts of your mind and of your psyche. The moments in which you are asking for something, crying out for something at that young of an age, it is almost as if like it is a core necessity. You know, if you don't get enough attention as a child, you do develop behavioral issues. As a child, being denied that circumstance are realizing that you're not getting the attention you need. And in that realization, which is what babies do have, you know, at that young of an age, is that I'm doing something wrong. And so they will change their behavior. In doing so, they are rejecting their needs and then adapting to the circumstances in which they can get what they can get to survive. The bare minimum is what they would eventually, decline to. The process is still established at those moments in which a baby is continually now changing their behavior because of the lack of their needs being met. And realizing this, it can be shown that the shadow can be traced back to adolescence. But it is not something that I do believe that we are born with. It is not a part of our soul experience. It is just a part of the psychological one. It can be developed into a spiritual one depending on the actions we take based on that psychological imprint that can be established and the decisions that we make because of it. It's not a core aspect of the soul's experience. So we are not born with that thought that there is something wrong with us. That is, unfortunately, something that is ingrained over time. It is something that is done so through that changing of our behavior. And the inability of our young minds to properly categorize and accept those parts of ourselves does force us to reject those less socially accepted parts and results in a sense of suppression, a sense of just dialing that down to be a voice that no longer can be heard, which over time can be damaging to one's life in adulthood. But it is entirely about how that voice was settled down compared to quieted down and shut down, so that the individual within that younger stage of life can still listen to that voice within their mind and not have a rigid sense of who they should be at such a young age and then define the rest of their life by that. Now, although the shadow can be something that does develop in your adolescence, I do believe that its growth is very much dependent on a sense of lack of responsibility. It's one in which you throw up that sense of who you think you should be, comparing yourself to the societal norm, however unhealthy or healthy it may be, and then saying, I no longer need to express those feelings. I no longer need to be myself. I'm just going to conform to that standard of living without really integrating the value behind it. That sense of blatant acceptance does create a lack of responsibility, a lack of coherence of the actions you're taking. It is now just socially acceptable because I was told that I was wrong. I was told that there was something wrong with me. You don't understand the action being taken was wrong, not the person doing it was wrong. The social norms and what's socially acceptable is vastly complicated and can be sometimes very generalized when it comes to being taught how to, behave within society's borders. The ones in which you aren't able to regulate that understanding of a value system and the importance behind it, and your desires and your place in the world because of those desires and because of those social standards are ones that can lead to that there's something wrong with me mentality, which is like I said, the basis of that shadow. So I hope this helps, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. If you'd like to, I think that I'm going to be making a video on that sort of positive focus comparative to the shadow work and trying to explain what it is that you can do to really make those actions to find that balanced middle, and understanding what each action and what each belief system has in correlation to one another, so that that balance can be understood and can be acted on wisely. So, like I said, I hope to see you guys in the next one. Deuces.